Broadcasting live from the Business RadioX studio in Cumming, Georgia, it's time for Forsyth Business Radio.
And hello and welcome to one of the very first episodes of Forsyth Business Radio. I am your host, Amanda Pierce, and we are broadcasting live from Cumming, Georgia in our beautiful new studio. It is with great pleasure that I introduce my co-host and my partner in business and in crime, Mr. Steve Cooper. Good morning, Steve.
Good morning, Amanda. Thank you for having us today. I'm going to wear two hats for our audience.
Two hats for our audience. And today is a very special day as I am joined at the table with three generations of Cooper men. Now, this is your company, or your father started this company back in the 60s, 67?
1966. Right. We've been in business 54 years, upcoming on 55.
And to kind of...
1966.
Bring our listeners up to speed.
Try it again. 1967. I was close.
Ted said 7.
That's why I got my brothers and father here.
And I would love to introduce them. So today is a very special episode. We're going to call it the Cooper Blowout Show. This is a general contracting company with a very large and strong presence here in Forsyth County and the surrounding areas. And they have been a proponent for the community and development and general contracting for quite a while. And as I mentioned, today I am joined by three generations, starting with Mr. Ted Cooper. Good morning, Ted.
Good morning, Amanda. I'm Ted Cooper.
Hello, Ted. And then we've got, just in ascending order, we've got Steve Cooper, and his brother Jim, who are principals to the company. And then we've got our surprised guest today, Evan Cooper. Good morning, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to the show. So today we're going to pay homage to the great work that your general contracting company has been doing in the community. But before I share all the great stuff you guys do with our listeners, I'd like to just share a little bit about each of you. So Ted Cooper is the CEO of Cooper & Company General Contractors. He's got 55 plus years of construction experience. He holds both a general contractor and a utility license. He has a Bachelor's of Science degree from Southern Techie. Am I saying that right?
Southern Tech.
Southern Tech. Man, someone put a Y on this paper.
At the time, it was an extension of Georgia Tech.
Georgia Tech. Okay. So we've got some rivalry here at the table. Some Georgia Tech and Bulldog rivalry?
No Bulldog rivalry.
Okay. Also, he is a 20
Go Dogs.
Go Dogs. 20-year board of directors member of the AGC. And Jim is also a part of that organization. I'd love for you guys to share a little bit about what that is, as I have no idea. But continuing with Ted, he is a lifetime board of directors member for the AGC. And also he's the third-year board member and president of the Comp Trust. So welcome to the show, Ted. Again, going in chronological order, Steve Cooper, who is not only the principal and CFO of Forsyth Business Radio, but he is also the principal of Cooper & Company General Contractors with 30 years of construction experience. He holds both a general contractor and utility foreman's license. He went to Southern Polytechnical University and has a Bachelor's of Science in Construction Management. He not only serves as the chair for the board of directors incoming 2024, but he is also on the board of directors and an officer for the Forsyth County Chamber of Commerce. Among sitting on the board of directors for Be More Learning, he participates in several other philanthropic efforts, and I'll let him kind of touch on those throughout the show. Moving along to Jim, who is also principal within the company. Jim, where's your information, Jim? Jim. Tell me where you went to school.
Sure. I went to Auburn University, got a bachelor degree in building science.
I see that here. Okay. In building science and in building construction. You are the 3-term board of director chairman for the AGC of Georgia, correct?
Just a 3-term board of director, not chairman, just served on the board.
Served on the board.
Yes.
And you're the chairman of the legislative committee.
That is correct.
Excuse me. Fantastic. Yes. And I look forward to expanding on that AGC again, because I'm not too familiar with that organization, and it sounds very interesting.
Sure.
And then last but not least, we're going to say Youngblood Evan Cooper is in the house. He is a KSU, and that's a Kennesaw State University graduate with a degree in project management, and also he holds a business management degree. Again, I mentioned that I am in the company of 3 generations of Coopers here at the table, and they all bring a different scope and different attributes to the Cooper and Company culture and also the general contracting practice. So, gentlemen, I would like to again welcome you to the show and thank you for your patience as we kick off this series here in Forsyth. And I'd like to kind of just allow each of you the opportunity to share about your role within the company and kind of how you got started within the industry. And we will start with you, Ted.
Thank you, Amanda. Actually, my start in the industry was much before 1967 when this company started, because I started with my father. He was a brick mason by trade. He later on started doing light general contracting work. And it was my intention all along that when I got out of school that we would have a construction company. Anyway, that didn't happen. In 1964, I came to Atlanta and got a job with a company called Forsyth and Company. And I worked there for 3 years and really enjoyed the work. I enjoyed the guy that I was working with, Charlie Foster. He really didn't care that much about running a company. He enjoyed working outside, doing not necessarily manual labor, but he would like to be outside in the field, handling the field crews. And in 1967, he came to me and says, "Ted, I really don't want to do what I'm doing anymore, and I'm just going to close the company up." Of course, that was pretty upsetting to me at the time because I had worked really hard for those 3 years. But he offered me a chance that we formed a company called Foster and Cooper, and I was the president of the company. That was in 1967. I was 27 years old, and so we began, and we were together for 28 years. We did just any and every kind of job you could think about. I enjoyed doing a lot of the heavier type, civil type jobs, probably more so than I did building jobs. But anyway, we stayed together for 28 years. He had 2 sons in the business, a son-in-law in the business. Steve had just gone to work with us, and Jim was on the wings coming to work with us.
So you started your family in your early 20s then, because you referenced this company, Foster and Cooper. You were 27.
Yes.
So you married Miss Gail in your early 20s, and you started your family, and throughout that you were establishing Foster and Cooper.
That is correct.
Okay, continue.
But anyway, in 1967, we started Foster and Cooper went to, I get the years confused, but went from Foster and Cooper to Cooper and Company. And after 28 years with Foster and Cooper, we started the Cooper and Company, and it's been 28, almost 29 years now with that company. So from there, we've developed the company where it is today. Steve and Jim have taken off. They've been running the company, doing a great job, probably a better job than I did. They do things differently from what I did, but that's not bad. In many cases, it's probably better than what I did. Now the next generation, Evan, is coming up, and he's doing all the things that I used to do, but he's doing it differently than I used to do because I used to take off, estimate, price out jobs manually. Evan wants to do it all on computer.
Oh, yeah, technology. Really fast-tracking things these days.
So anyway, next in line, we got another brother. Actually, my grandson, Evan's brother, is coming along in about 2 years, and we'll repeat this process.
And how old is your brother, Evan? Younger, obviously?
He is younger. He's 20 right now.
Okay.
He's still in
He'll
school.
Be coming on.
Mm-hmm.
So that's still going to just be 3 generations.
That's right.
Okay. I'm getting confused with the generations. Ted, thank you for kind of setting up the history and the homage to Cooper. I'd like to parlay next to Steve as he is next in line, and I'd like for you to share about your role within Cooper, Steve, and kind of how you and Jim are seated at the helm of the organization now together as principals.
Yes, thank you, Amanda. So our role in Cooper and Company as both principals is to keep the generation with all the information, all the good success my father has in line. One thing I don't think we mentioned about my father, he is the past president of AGC and the AGC recipient of the Sir Award.
What does AGC stand for, Steve, for our listeners that are unfamiliar with that world?
Associated General Contractors.
Thank you.
So that's like winning the Academy Awards to all the listeners out there.
Wow.
Very, very big honor, big shoes to fill. But what we do in Cooper & Company, what my role is I oversee operations. We're going to talk to my brother Jim, who is in pre-construction. He acquires all the work. But our firm, we serve 12 industries. We do projects throughout the Southeast. We've done over 636 projects. We're very involved in the community. Some of our associations, as far as giving back to the community, are the North Georgia Community Foundation for Northeast Georgia, Boy Scouts of America, Good Samaritan, FOCO Frontliners, Jesse's House, The Connection, and Family Promise. Other things we do differently in our community is culture in our company. You heard my dad talk about doing things differently. So growing up in the construction business, trying to recruit different talent, our company is really involved in what I call team member retention. Some of the things we do for our team members, we just finished our 3.14 Pie Day contest. We do have a big crawfish boiled every year for my father on his birthday, March 24th.
Right, that's coming up. We've got a lot of buzz going around that crawfish boil.
Fantasy football. And we have a wellness program that all the ladies are involved with our firm right now that keeps them on the go and keeps them happy. I want to mention some of the projects we do. My brother's going to touch on this in a little while, but I always like to talk about our hometown, Forsyth County. We've done numerous jobs for Forsyth County Board of Education. Besides the building, Board of Education itself, some of the K through 12 projects are Johns Creek Elementary, Sharon Elementary. We've done work at Vickery Creek. We've also done work in the religious sector, First Baptist Church, Creekside United Methodist Church, Cumming First United Methodist Church, our office, CFI office building, Pittman Road Fire Station, Sharon Forks Library, and the Regional Readiness Center. Currently working on one of our larger projects, the Cumming City Center, which I know everyone's really excited about for the future opening up.
You guys do some other projects as well. You and I were at the Duluth Library ribbon cutting not too long ago, and I know you did or are currently working on the Norcross Library in our neighboring county here in Gwinnett.
So outside of Forsyth County, we're very fortunate to do a lot of work in the public safety sector or municipality. I mentioned that we serve 12 industries. Right now, what's hot is fire stations, libraries, government buildings. Everybody, all the women like firemen, so we have a lot of volunteers wanting to do work for our fire stations.
I can imagine. Now, kind of integrating all the wonderful things that you mentioned in the projects that future, past, and present. Jim, kind of take the lead and share how you participate in all of this activity within the marketplace and the community, and maybe share about your role within those projects.
Sure. As far as the role in our company, I guess the easiest way to explain it is my job is looking to the future, and of course my brother's job is what's going on currently with the company. So my job is basically acquiring the new work and trying to find the jobs that are out there. You were talking about the hot markets. That's really important to know what is the hot market, what's being built. So that's part of really the biggest role, acquiring the work and how to get work and really, you talk about the hot markets, public safety and libraries seem to be a really hot market right now, and we really like doing projects like that.
Let's see. I can't hear you.
How's that?
Perfect.
Okay, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
No. But as far as the role, and it's important we talk about the role in the community, because the market, such as, and I'll use a library as an example, a library is not a library anymore. It is basically a community center. So that's kind of important in that you've got a teen room or a room for places for people to gather. And it amazes me when you mentioned a minute ago the Norcross Library. We did just complete that. Mm-hmm. And on the ribbon cutting day, the library was already filled up with people. The teen room was already filled up with kids in there. So
there's definitely a need.
I think so, and I thought that was very interesting.
Yes, for that collective space, and now more than ever, after we experienced with the pandemic and having to do alternative styles of learning, etc., that collaborative co-working space that kind of provides the energy and education for the youth and even adults, because I know that those libraries offer some unique programs for adults to take advantage of, like 3D printing classes, apiary, sewing, etc. So it really is a pillar for the community, like you said.
I agree, and well, like I said, and even the library we finished here just a few years ago, the Sharon Forks Library is a very busy library. I think it's actually, they mentioned it's the busiest library, I believe, in the state when it comes to checking out of whatever it is to be checked out.
Books, yeah.
Not just books, and it's constantly busy. And so I think just real important. And that's very rewarding for us to do projects that are seen and used and will always be something that is really nice to drive by and see at a later date.
Yes, and know that you participated in erecting that facility.
Yes.
I want to kind of just ask a silly question, Evan. You might not even be on the same page. But speaking of libraries, do you remember the Dewey Decimal System? Do you remember? Jim?
I remember, yes.
Okay. Ted and Steve, you guys remember? Evan, that was probably gone by the time you...
Yeah.
So when I was in school, we used to have to actually do like research for our book reports in the library, where you had to use the Dewey Decimal System to find the book, cite your work, all that. Now you just Google everything and just slap the website. You have no idea what you missed out on. But there's certain nostalgia in libraries and the Dewey Decimal System that made me just think of that. Jim, I'm curious about how you procure projects. So I know procurement is a large part of your role.
Yes.
So take us through that process for someone that's not as informed about AEC and GCs like yourself.
Sure, thank you. I guess back 10, 20 years ago, procuring work for a construction company was pretty straightforward in that we got a set of plans and a set of specifications, and we looked at this. We would gather quotations from subcontractors and suppliers, come up with a price, and an owner would choose the contractor based solely off who had the lowest price. Mm. Well, that sort of system is becoming more and more antiquated in that it's not being used anymore. And so over especially the past 10 years, we now acquire work by, not price is an important factor, but it's not the most important factor. They will basically want us to give a resume, experience doing projects similar in nature. And we get graded off basically a point system. Everybody has a different way of doing it, but resume really speaks a lot to how we get awarded a project. And, I joked as Evan was going through college, I really made sure he knew that public speaking and marketing was really important now, because you will get judged as a contractor off your interview just as important as you will off your price. So you have to present yourself well in front of a group of people when you're trying to acquire work. You also have to put forth a really nice brochure or a book about yourself to try to convince an owner to even get to the stage of somebody considering you for doing a project. So there's a lot of marketing, a lot of interviews that happen now. So it's...
Would you say a lot of it is relationship based as well? Helping fuel the relationships with key players within the community are essential to remaining relevant in the procurement process.
Exactly. And social media is an important factor too, because if you are in front of people as they look on all the social media platforms and they see your company doing certain projects, you're there in front and everybody knows this company does this type of work. And it really just helps with the whole marketing of somebody choosing your company.
I agree. Social presence is key these days, and making sure that you have a positive promotional and professional image online is absolutely a consideration when people are considering you for a project or job or anything. The first thing people do is plug in your name to Facebook and see like what kind of posts, what kind of photos are there.
Exactly.
So I agree, community involvement. So talk a little bit about, and then we're going to parlay to Evan, because Evan is Jim's son, for those of you listening that didn't quite know the relationship. Talk about what it's like working with your child, no offense, your offspring, your son, your nice young man whom you had a hand in creating. And also, Evan, then I'd like for you to share a little bit about your role as well within Cooper.
Sure. Well, I have the unique perspective of not just having my son working with me, but I've also am working for my dad and with my
your
brother.
brother.
So I get to, I guess, experience this from every single angle possible. So I've gone from the student to the teacher, I guess is the best way of putting it. Although I do think that Evan is really learning the most from Professor Granddad.
Aw, Dad.
So, but I think that's a really cool perspective from my part, is because it really doesn't seem like that long ago that I was in Evan's shoes.
Let me ask you out of curiosity, because, a lot of times with family business, Ted, you started it, and naturally you would assume that the fellas might fall into the business per se, but I'm sure you would have encouraged them if they wanted to be underwater basket weavers or professional golfers. However, they all managed to kind of stay here within the coop. The coop, get it? The roost. Jim, is being a part of Cooper and Company something that you aspired to do since you were Evan's age, or something that you kind of just jumped into because it was the family business?
Sure. Well, I still haven't given up on my professional golfing career.
Yes.
But I don't know the exact time when I figured out that this was what I was going to do. Sometimes me and my brother both joke that we were in this business from birth.
Which is true.
So we were building things at a very young age, so I don't know if there was just an aha moment where I said, okay, this is what's going to happen. So it was kind of always there, I guess, always going to be the case.
Were you building with Legos and Lincoln Logs?
The Lego story is about to happen.
Oh, I can't wait. Do you know what Lincoln Logs are? Evan, this is so before your time. I'm sorry. And I'm not that much older than you. I just turned 36. But Lincoln Logs, do you know what those are?
Yeah. I know what Lincoln Logs are.
Of course. Fantastic. Didn't mean to deviate again.
No, that's...
So now we're gonna talk to Evan, because Evan, you pursued a degree in project management, obviously to kind of be a catalyst to what you're doing here with Cooper. So share a little bit about your role within the company and a little bit about what it's like working with 3 generations of your family.
Well, my role in the company so far has been more or less assisting on the pre-construction team. So, starting out, it's best to kind of learn what happens before the actual construction occurs. So
what does happen? Because I'm not
before the construction?
Yeah, obviously the development phase, right?
Procurement, soliciting bids from subcontractors, estimating the project and all the quantities of the materials that go with it. There's a lot to do before you can get out there with a tractor and start moving dirt around. So, yeah, I'm definitely getting into that for sure. I've been assisting, my dad and our other team members on projects that we've been trying to get a hold of. So, nice. Yeah, it's been going good so far.
So we're all seated here in this beautiful studio, and we're all dressed up. All you fellas have on a nice Cooper blue. But we all know that there's a lot of dirt and diesel, as Steve Cooper likes to say, in your world, in the field. So talk a little bit about, what an average day in your world might look like, how often you're on a job site, when you put on that hard hat and them boots, or the times that you're able to spend here in the office eating your delicious, portioned, and healthy lunch.
Well, starting out, the earliest days I was employed at our company, my brother and I both, funny enough, were out on a job site with a hard hat on and boots, and we're sweeping up trash and, sweating, getting a real feel for what it's like out there. And I'm glad I did that, because it really helped show me what it's like to be, at any point in the construction process. So that's, the hardest, gruntiest part of the job.
Builds character.
Right. So I did that while I was in, part-time in school. And once I finished, I really started doing more in the office. I started learning more about the pre-construction process and the estimating process and talking to subcontractors, forming relationships with them. So, I'm slowly building my experience in the field to the point where, hopefully, eventually I will know every aspect of the project inside and out while I'm working on it. So
absolutely. And I'm sure you will reach that point because you're well on your way.
That's correct. Yeah.
I have a personal question for you, Evan, because you and I are both enthusiastic about physical fitness. How do you think, we'll talk about the importance of remaining balanced, not only mentally, but physically in order for you to perform at a high level within your organization?
Sure. Well, life's about a balance. If something is off, it's going to affect another aspect of your life. So the more balanced you are physically, mentally, in your career, outside of your job, the more even and ready you'll be for whatever life throws at you. So
absolutely,
I think it's definitely made me much more effective as a person.
And disciplined.
That's right.
I'd say. Well, you heard a little bit about each of the Cooper fellas and about their role within Cooper General Contracting. Steve, I'd like to
before we leave that, let me make a few statements here.
Please, yes.
First off, the boys said they grew up in construction, and that's true. When Steve got out of high school, I'm not really sure that he was ready to go into construction right away. I had to kind of push and shove a little bit, but he took to it well, and I think that he really, really enjoys his career. Jim kind of thought he wanted to be an attorney. I have no idea where that came from, but we just missed that in a hurry.
Jim.
He likes to argue a lot.
You have to be an attorney to be a contractor.
I can see that.
Anyway, he got directed and has done well. Evan, the same thing. He thought maybe he wanted to dwell in real estate a little bit, but I think he changed his mind a little bit on that. So all these traits still help the company in what we're doing now. And anyway, I just wanted to point that out.
Oh, and Evan, you can still get your real estate license, and that can be an additional revenue stream to what you're doing here.
Sure.
Especially if it's on the commercial side.
Never say never, right?
Never say never.
Evan, pay attention to your granddaddy. Stay with what you got.
I think he does. I would be remiss if I didn't mention all the powerhouse ladies in the Cooper world that kind of stand behind each of you and even kind of help out this organization here at Business RadioX. So, Jim, I apologize. I'm unsure if your wife has a participating role. I'll let you speak to that momentarily. But Gail, Ted's
Absolutely.
wife, she plays an integral role here at Cooper. She works here in the office shoulder to shoulder, and she provides aid in a variety of ways. Shay Cooper, who is Steve's wife, I know that she's a blessing in my world, and I know that she is really the person that's keeping things in order behind the scenes for Steve here. He's winking at me and laughing. Shay, I know you're listening.
No, Shay's the boss.
Shay's the boss. Now, Jim, talk about the powerhouse woman behind your Cooper dynamic.
Sure. My wife, Lindsay, she does not work at the company. She's told me before that we make a great couple, but we would make a great business team.
At least she's able to voice that to you.
No, she's certainly at home doing all the things that are necessary to keep, like my brother said, to keep me in line, but to
keep your family,
keep the family functioning right. There's a lot of baseball games that we're going to, and a lot of practices for my two youngest sons you mentioned earlier. Harrison's in college right now, but I have two younger sons, Griffin and Jackson. They're in elementary school currently, so there may be future generations coming up soon.
There you go. Good thing you had all the fellas, because Steve had all the gals.
Like Evan said, things have to balance out.
They do. And now Evan is taking applications for powerhouse ladies who would like to. No, I'm just kidding. I'm unaware if you have a women's support system behind you. Evan, please share with our listeners.
Well, no.
Other than your mother.
Not right now, no.
Okay. One day there will be a powerhouse lady.
Yeah.
Steve, kind of going back, and thank you, Ted, for sharing those wonderful nuggets of history about the fellas. Steve, I'd like to open up the floor for you to share some things, or kind of maybe call someone to the carpet here at the table so that we can kind of share different scopes of each of your world.
Sure. So just going back to my father, have a great opportunity. My father left me and my brother, and having an opportunity to see the construction company grow as it has, being a third-generation contractor, being in business for over 55 years, that's a feat in itself. You don't see a lot of businesses have that generational control back and forth. One thing that I also want to mention, going back to our culture and community and being involved with the Chamber of Commerce and the Rotary Club and doing things within our community, that means a lot to our firm, not just to build buildings, but to give back. Blessing working with my brother, father, and nephew. Not a lot of people get to do that. And I'm just very thankful, very fortunate. I'm one of the luckiest people alive.
Oh. As he fights back tears in his eyes. He's definitely a lucky man. Oh, yes. Yeah, by all means. So you were going to talk to me, you were going to share with our listeners, because the first time that you and I shared some time on the air, we were interviewed by a dear friend of mine, Rick Strawn, and you happened just at the tail end for about 3 minutes to talk about Bigfoot. And you would be surprised how many people out there listen to that podcast and sent Steve an email and wanted to know about his affinity with Bigfoot. And now we've got Jim here at the table. And I'd like for you to share, with that half smirk on your face, about the reason that you guys love Bigfoot so much, and maybe about your enthusiasm, where it started in your youth.
Yeah, so I know from a marketing standpoint, whatever you slap on Bigfoot, it sells. So a lot of my postings have Bigfoot. I have a lot of Bigfoot paraphernalia that people give to me all the time. If you come see my office, it looks like a Bigfoot museum. But I'm going to let my brother talk about his experience very quickly with Bigfoot.
Sure. Well, to answer your original question, the reason I think both me and my brother are, like Bigfoot so much is going back to our youth. There seemed to always be shows on TV about Bigfoot, and for some reason that fascinated us. But what really was the tipping point was the famous episode of The $6 Million Man, where he battled Bigfoot. And it was just, as a very young kid, that really caught our attention. And there's actually, seems like multiple shows with $6 Million Man battling Bigfoot. That really started the whole thing, and I guess from that point on, the infatuation continued, especially for my brother.
For those listening that don't know Steve personally, he's like 6'4", size 19 shoe. I'm just kidding. I don't even know if that's a real size, but I think that he can empathize maybe a little bit with the Sasquatch. Isn't Bigfoot also a Sasquatch?
I think so, and I think what you say is true, that if it's dark outside, someone may mistake him for Bigfoot.
There you go.
It has happened before.
It has, I believe it, especially when you're in those Carhartt overalls out there on that Polaris.
So, Amanda, let's ask each of us what our favorite project is before we
say adios.
Yeah, and then I want to say one more thing.
But
let's start with my father.
Let's start. He told me what his favorite project was earlier.
Well, Amanda, you asked if I had a favorite project, and I told you really all of them are. I enjoy putting the pricing together on projects to see what the costs are supposed to be, and hopefully when we get through, that cost is correct. But every job is interesting. Some of them are show off more so than others, but there's not very many jobs that we've done that I've not enjoyed. But some of them are special, but all of them have been enjoyable with me.
In your office, in your Cooper office, which is very nearby, I admire we'll call it the pool room, the rec room, because there's a pool table in there. There is a row of photos with a little bit of information about projects that have been completed in the past. And one that I find very interesting, not that I'm on the team, when this occurred, but just I find it so fascinating, is the Stone Mountain project. And the reason that I find it very interesting, and maybe you can share a little bit more about it, is because I can only imagine logistically the challenges that you faced to haul all of the materials to erect the building to the top of Stone Mountain.
See, all that's important, but what was more important, that was one of Steve's first jobs.
Wow.
And I enjoyed that more than I did all the tasks of working out the logistics of the job.
Mm-hmm. I can see that.
Trial not by error, trial by fruition.
Trial by fruition. Well, being that was your first project, obviously that was noteworthy. Would you consider that one of your favorites? And if not, what would you say is one of your favorite projects?
No, that's my favorite because my father did a job at Stone Mountain 25 years earlier. And we were fortunate enough to have relationships with the Stone Mountain Memorial Association. And we got to do the top of the tram, the bottom of the tram right before the Olympics came. And we have a picture of me and my father up on that mountain 30 years ago. So it was a meaningful project for us.
And that was the last time you climbed Stone Mountain, wasn't it?
That was the last time.
How did I know? Jim, what would you say is a past, present, or future project that stands out to you in your mind?
Sure. The obviously being in the pre-construction side of things, we're always looking for future projects. And we had mentioned it earlier. I really love doing anything in the public safety and library arena. So that's really we're looking for those into the future. But as far as a past project, my favorite project to date was the Zion Hill Baptist Church for many different reasons. But mainly there was a lot of blood, sweat, and tears involved on that project. It was a very challenging but rewarding project. It did win a Build Georgia Award, so wow. Very proud of that. But that was also really the last project that I was an official project manager on before stepping into more of the leadership role in the company, where really not a project manager anymore as far as leadership. So that was kind of the last one where I was a PM on, and it's a really nice church. It was a large church, and it's really a church that looks really good on a brochure too.
I'm going to have to give it a Google after the show.
Yes, definitely.
Very nice. Now, Evan, the same question, but then I have some follow-up questions for you as well, because I want to deep dive into your world just a little bit more, because I'm a very curious person.
Sure.
But in your tenure with Cooper, what would you say is the most noteworthy or your favorite project?
Well, right now, it would have to be one we actually just were recently awarded, Cherokee County Fire Station number 15.
Congratulations on being awarded.
Well, thank you. I would say that that's my favorite, simply because I actually, put in a decent amount of time into that project as far as doing some of the labor quantity estimating and the pre-construction process. So it's nice to have helped get a project awarded to our company at this point. So that's why it's my favorite.
Well, congratulations.
Thanks.
And out of curiosity, because we've all experienced with where the world is today with supply chain and building materials, et cetera, involved in your estimation process, I'm sure that you have to overcome some challenges in finding the materials to, complete the projects. Is that still something that's relevant in your world?
Yeah, absolutely. So a lot of that ends up falling onto our subcontractors. So one of the biggest issues we've had recently is price escalation. So subcontractors, aren't able to hold their prices for as long as they used to be able to. So it makes it challenging when you're trying to, come up with a big estimate for a project, and then somebody comes back and says that their price has gone up 10%. It, puts a little bit of a damper on things. But we've done a pretty good job of working through it and working with the subcontractors and owners to try to mitigate that as much as we can. So I would say we're doing our best.
Absolutely. And just out of curiosity, let's say that there was a steel purveyor or anybody that wants to work in a subcontractor, type role in your world. How do you select those people? Like, do you have preferred vendors? What does that look like in your world? And excuse my naivety, because I'm not in the GC world, but I imagine you have a million people knocking at your door because they have what you need to build that building. Talk us through the process of selection in that regard.
So as far as selection goes, we put out the packages for bid. So the steel package on a project, we're going to have maybe 20, 30 or so subcontractors that we invite to view the plans for the project and give us their proposal for what they can do the project for. So generally speaking, we like to use the best number, the low number, the most complete proposal, lacking, errors. So, but there are obviously contractors that we've done more work with in the past that we would keep our eye out for more.
Right.
But I would definitely say, any company that's a good company and is going to provide us with the best proposal they can has a fair shot at doing work with us.
Very cool.
Right.
Thank you for helping educate me and our listeners.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you, gentlemen, for your time today and helping me, understand a little bit more about your world. I've very much enjoyed speaking to all of you. Steve, is there anything else you'd like to add or share?
Yes. Number one, Amanda, this is mine and yours first show. I appreciate the opportunity to be business partners with you. 3 things that drew me to Amanda was I knew that she has muscle and a lot of hustle. She's smart with a sweetheart, and she's a hostess with the mostest.
Oh, Steve.
And a couple more thank yous. Number one, my buddy Adam Rhodes, the president of Lanier Club Rotary, had some surgery the other day. Thoughts and prayers to him. And then most of all, thanks to my father for getting this thing started. If it wasn't for him, we wouldn't be here today. So thank you, Dad.
Absolutely. Ted, you have a wonderful legacy here within Cooper and Company. And I'd like to ask, as a final thought, what does it mean to you to leave a legacy?
It's really kind of hard to explain. Steve said a while ago he was the luckiest man in the room. He really is not. I am.
Oh,
So
there's so much love in this room.
When I start talking about my family, I get so emotional sometimes I can't even think straight.
That's okay. It's because you've got a very a wonderful family, and you should be proud. And you've worked very hard to create a culture and, like I said, a legacy. That's the only thing that stands out to me. I'm sitting here at a table full of legacy Coopers, and I'm the lucky gal. I do want to take the time to thank some of our partners that help make this possible. We're sitting here at a table that was that we got from our furniture partners at Office Creations. And I think, Jim, you even mentioned that these Adirondack chairs are extremely comfortable, didn't you?
Yes, they are.
He might have to swipe a couple for his office, he said. And that is, again, thanks to our partners at Office Creations. Visit them at officecreations.net to learn how they can help you with your design efforts. And then also we're sitting here with all of our logoed items that were provided by Brandywine Printing. Big thank you to our partner, Derek Brooks. We couldn't have done it without him. He came through clutch with all of this Forsyth Business RadioX signage. And in addition, I think Steve wanted to mention that he is hosting a crawfish boil to celebrate Ted's birthday. I won't disclose the date because I won't embarrass you on air. However, the crawfish boil is on the 25th, right?
25th.
Right. And I heard it was a bring your own meat, like we just smoke all the meats. Is that true?
Everything's provided by Cooper and Company.
Cooper and Company. And you're going to help me peel the crawfish because I
Absolutely.
can't do that myself. You guys, please stay connected with us on social media. It has been a great pleasure coming to you live from our Business RadioX studio here in Cumming, Georgia. Again, at Forsyth Business RadioX to stay connected. Subscribe wherever you get your audio shows. And also these shows are available 24/7 online at businessradiox.com. Until next time, I am your host, Amanda Pierce, and this has been Forsyth Business Radio.